you're a candidate, that you have a great product, a great service, a great angle on health, fitness, or fashion, feel free to contact us, and we'd be happy to bring you on the show. Now, we also want to thank our advertisers for advertising on the show. Our major advertiser is AZ Laser and Skin, Arizona Laser and Skin. You can reach them at azmdlaser.com, and you can find out the amazing holistic approach that they take to aesthetics, to essentially they're a med spa as well as a cosmetic surgery. So in fact, we're going to talk about throughout the show, we're going to be talking about stress and how to cope with stress. Sometimes we live in a stressful environment. For example, it might not be your fault that your spouse is divorcing you, but yet you're going through and it's stressful time. So how do you cope with the amount of stress that's in your life in a way that still allows you to have peace and happiness in your life? So I want to thank Dr. Lee for joining us on the show. She is the host of the show, and welcome.
Well, thank you, Kurt. Of course. Stress does so much to us in all kinds of aspects. Divorcing is a big one, a big stressor. Another well-known one is changing jobs, moving, either just moving into a new house or moving new locations in different cities.
Sure.
What else you can think of a big stressor?
Oh, I actually went online one time and took a test about all the different stresses. Going to college, changes in school. My son just went, he graduated from junior high and went to high school.
Sure.
The stress level was so high with him.
Changing school, changing location.
Yeah, changing
moving.
location, moving, switching friends, because that comes along with it. We mentioned divorce. Getting married is actually a very stressful
Yes,
time.
it
It's a
is.
positive moment in your life, but this also can be stressful. Some people, for more than others, are driving on the freeway. They tend to be prone to
Well,
road
those
rage.
are more of day-to-day stressors.
Sure.
The bigger
but
ones.
big stressors.
Death in the family,
Mm-hmm.
newborns,
Yes.
change of jobs. Did I mention that one before?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Change of school.
Yes.
Those are major things.
But
But other than disease, illnesses.
oh, very
that
much so.
definitely changes life quite a bit. Those are big stressors that we deal with in life. There are also smaller ones. They're more of the day-to-day, everyday thing that we talk about. Oh, the stress level is going high. Usually not the bigger things. The bigger things we know, we recognize them. The smaller things, driving is one of them. Bumper to bumper, rush hour driving. Work accumulating up. Trying to stay on time. Speaking of that,
I'm never stressed about that. I'm very stressed about it. I wish I were not stressed about it, or stressed about it and actually accomplish it. So
yeah, deadlines for work.
yes.
Exam for a student. Quizzes, exams
Sure.
for some students. Not all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, some people slough it off, but I mean, ultimately, even if you don't worry about it, unless you're one of those that's so intelligent that you were just going to ace every exam without studying for it. Most of the time, even if you say you're not stressed about it, you take the exam, you don't do well, and you say you don't care, there's still some residual stress.
Right. Another thing is how do you define stress and how everybody feels about stress is differently.
Right.
The same exam can be stressful for some, but not for the other.
Right. Very true. I would say that infidelity is a stressor. Whether it's the person who is committing the infidelity or the person who is being cheated on, those are major stressors. It doesn't have to go to divorce level for it to be stressful. I think there's a lot of stress that goes on.
That would be a major one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what stress does to us, I just rushed here to stay on time,
Mm-hmm.
is three aspects. This is a small stress: driving, keeping the deadline, trying to be on time. Physically, you get racing heartbeat, your blood pressure goes up, your pupils constrict or dilate. at different times. And, on the long run, for people who have stressful lifestyle, they can have chronic pain, muscle aching, headaches, insomnia, difficulty going to sleep.
Or
What else?
staying asleep.
Yes, that could be.
Mhm.
And tension, fatigue,
You bet.
just being upset, irritable. We've seen those before, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely. And also we're going to talk, I'm sure we're going to talk as a de-stressor, being able to laugh and
Absolutely. Once
yeah.
you identify what they are, then you can, fight them back.
You bet. Because sometimes if those around you are stressed, it causes stress to you. If you're the type of person who loves to laugh and joke and have a good time, and those around you don't, that can be a stressor.
You can change that.
Which is part of what we're going to be talking
Right.
about, correct? Okay, go ahead.
And it also affects your mood, anxiety. We talked about irritability, lack of motivation to actually go on, to actually take on the life tasks, being sadness, depression. Stress affects us in all these ways.
It's very true.
Yes.
I just found out that someone who passed away recently in my life, I just found out the real truth behind the passing, and it was a suicide. So sometimes stress when not dealt with well,
Absolutely.
can actually lead to completely non-constructive ways of handling it. So how do you deal with stress?
Exactly. We'll talk about what we do. First we're going to talk about what stress does to us. Then we're going to talk about what do we do about our stress. There are things we can do to fight that. And in a stressful situation or a lifestyle, people choose different kinds of behaviors. Some of them will overeat. Eating is comforting.
I hate to say it, I do that.
Sometimes
I stress eat.
sometimes you don't even realize you are eating, because when you're stressed, you chew gum or you chew some food. You're just doing it, and that's one little way we can help make ourselves feel better.
Sure, they talk about comfort food, and there's the truth to that.
There's actually a de-stress diet that they talk about.
I want to learn more about that.
Right. And that's one thing people do to when they're in stressful situation or a lifestyle. They can get angry, behavior-wise. That's not very constructive. That usually makes the stress worse, not better. But that's one of the ways we adapt, or we respond. And drug abuse, alcohol abuse, another behavior that's common. People usually say, well, I can't deal with it, I need to do this. Heard of that before. Tobacco use, smoking. Some people say, well, the only reason I can't quit is because, what I do when I get stressed, I can't relax, and then smoking helps me to do that. And another form is social withdrawal. So when you're stressed, you're not reaching out. You're not really interacting with your friends, family as much. You just, back in your own little hole and withdraw. So these are the things that happen when we are stressed.
If I could draw it a little bit home, and when the economy turned, I think a lot of people became stressed, and I know it's a time to go to break. So when we come back from break, we want to talk a little bit about sometimes stressors aren't just individually from yourself, from your spouse. And sometimes an economic downturn, you're in the same boat with a lot of people, and so when we come back from break, we're going to talk about good ways to do that.
I think we still have a little time.
Oh, okay. I guess I looked at the wrong indicator. Made me stressed for just a moment. So maybe I can not rush so quickly to make my point. But I think so many of us actually did. Our businesses were affected, mine included. When the economy went down, expendable income went down, and when expendable income went down, so did the expendable income of small business owners who were affected by that, and we had less advertisers. There's just a lot of things that occur when there's an economic downturn. And I actually, I look back, about 3 years ago when it was kind of the downturn was at its peak, or I should say at its bottom, and it's come back a little bit. But I never, at least I didn't turn to drug or alcohol abuse or tobacco, but I think there was a certain amount of social withdrawal. When you're stressed, you withdraw. You don't tend to, my family pointed out within the last year that I've been able to laugh and joke and be a lot more fun than I was, because when you're stressed, you're just not very much fun to be around.
This is what I tell my friends, and I talk to them about it. I say, if a old good friend is not, you don't hear from them, call them.
Right.
Maybe they're not doing so well. Usually when they're doing well, they have the spare, moment and spirit to contact you. When they're not contacting you, they may need to be called.
That's when they may
They may
need you
need
the
a little
most.
tender, loving care.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So, but I also, even though I didn't turn to, any type of chemicals, I actually did turn to food. Luckily, I didn't gain a lot of weight, and I fought that successfully. Maybe only about 10 pounds came back, after 3 years of fighting it. But the point is that when you eat and you start feeling those pounds coming back on, it actually adds a stress in and of itself. So you think it's a stress reducer? It's actually a stress increaser.
It's just one of the things we do. It's not good for us.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do anything good to the stress.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I can relate to those who maybe smoke and drink, but just in the same way that I recognize that's not good for my stress level. It just increases my stress level. Same thing with smoking and drinking.
Yeah, you talk about the economical downtime. There's something good about it. When people have more free time or sit down and reflect, there may be some enlightening there, and thinking maybe it's time to relax a little bit. I've known quite a few friends, and they say, well, you know what, I have less work to do, I have more free time, you know what, I'm going to enjoy life more. So that's a positive way of dealing with stress.
Absolutely. When I think we are close to break now.
I know we are.
When we come back from break, we're going to talk about some of the positive things that you can do. And so if you don't have a pen and paper handy, grab one. And when we come back from break, we'll talk about some of the solutions to stress and that I think could possibly be life changers.
That's right, what we can do to fight back. Okay, come back soon. We'll be back right after the commercial.